So today we're going to jump into a topic that's kind of fascinating and honestly, a little controversial. We're talking about Neuro Linguistic Programming, or NLP. You've probably heard of it, but what is it really? And does it actually live up to all the hype? Let's find out.
Now, just so you know, for this explainer, we're leaning heavily on some fantastic material from Thomas Condon over at the Changeworks. It gives us a really solid, balanced perspective on the whole thing. All right, let's dive right in.
I mean, come on, who hasn't had this thought? The idea that you could just reprogram your own brain, delete a phobia, install a new habit, maybe crank up your confidence dial, almost like you're updating software on your computer. Well, that incredibly tempting idea, that is right at the heart of what NLP claims it can do.
Okay, so first things first, before we get into the wild stories and the controversy, let's just get a clear definition. What is NLP anyway?
Okay, this definition is super important. The key word here is structure. See, NLP isn't really about changing the facts of what happened to you. It's about changing how you experience those facts inside your own head. It's like changing the recipe, not the ingredients themselves.
So the whole foundation of NLP rests on this one big idea. Our experiences, our feelings, our behaviors, they're not random. They actually follow a pattern, a kind of internal structure. And the really cool part is, if it has a structure, that means you can analyze it. And if you can analyze it, you can change it. And these are the basic building blocks of that structure. Just think about it for a second. Right now, your entire experience of this moment is made up of a few key things. What you're picturing in your mind's eye, the visual part, the stuff you're saying to yourself in your head, that's auditory, and of course, what you're feeling in your body, your emotions, that's the kinesthetic part. NLP is basically a set of tools designed to let you play with that mix. So where in the world did this whole thing come from? It's a pretty radical idea, right? Well, the origin story is actually just as fascinating as the techniques themselves. So let's go back and see how this all got started.
So you got to go back to the early 1970s. You've got these two guys, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, and they had this really unique goal. They weren't trying to invent a new form of therapy. Nope. They wanted to model genius. They looked at these absolute masters of psychotherapy, people like Virginia Satir and Milton Erickson, who were getting what looked like miraculous results. And they just asked a simple question: forget their theories, what are they actually doing that works?
And this, right here, is the absolute secret sauce of NLP. This is the whole thing. They didn't care about what these therapists said they were doing. They cared about what they actually did. They analyzed their exact language patterns, their posture, the kinds of questions they asked, all the little things that were leading to these huge breakthroughs. And here's what they did with all that observation. They basically took the stuff these masters were doing automatically, their unconscious competence, and they broke it down. They found these meta patterns, the core strategies that work no matter who was using them. And then they turned them into learnable, step-by-step techniques that anyone, in theory, could use to get similar results.
And that origin story really tells you everything you need to know about the promise of NLP. Right from the start, it was never about deep, navel-gazing theory. It's always been about one thing: creating change and doing it as quickly and effectively as possible.
So if you're trying to place it in the world of psychology, NLP is really rooted in behaviorism. And what that means is, it's way less interested in the deep, complicated why behind your problem. It's almost entirely focused on changing the behavior itself. It's not about spending years on a couch talking about your childhood. It's about short-term, super-focused change. A perfect example of this in action? Phobia elimination. I mean, this is one of the things that really put NLP on the map. It became famous for these incredibly clever techniques that could supposedly get rid of a lifelong phobia, sometimes in just one session. Can you imagine? That's where its reputation for being almost magically powerful really started. But, and this is a huge but, that same power is also the source of some of the biggest criticisms leveled against NLP. Because, a powerful tool can be a really dangerous thing in the wrong hands or without the right understanding. So here's the first big problem people have with it. NLP's greatest strength, that laser-like focus on one specific behavior, is also its biggest weakness. It's designed to pull one single problem out of the incredibly complex ecosystem of a person's life and just fix it in isolation. And this example from our source material explains it perfectly. Let's take two different people who both have a snake phobia. Now, for one person, let's say they're generally an anxious type.
That snake phobia just fits right into their larger story about being a weak or fearful person. It reinforces their identity. But for another person, maybe someone who's super assertive and never shows vulnerability, that same phobia might be the one single acceptable way they have to express fear. So you come in with a quick NLP technique and zap the phobia in both of them. Great, right? Well, maybe not. You've removed the symptom, but you've completely ignored the very different purpose that symptom was serving in each person's life.
Okay, and that brings us to the second and maybe more troubling criticism. The fact is, NLP is fundamentally a set of tools for persuasion and influence. And, well, those tools can be used for some pretty amoral, manipulative ends.
The source material uses this brilliant, sharp analogy. It's like teaching someone all the secrets of persuasion so they can get really good at selling used cars to people who don't need them. A lot of the training is super quick, and it's totally stripped of any real psychological depth. So you end up with people who have these powerful tools of influence, but absolutely no ethical framework for how to use them responsibly.
And this quote really just hits the nail on the head. People can go to a weekend workshop, get a certificate, and suddenly they're out there using these powerful techniques, all while being, blissfully unaware that people are different from bridges. You can't just apply a formula to a human being and expect it to work like an engineering problem.
So, okay, we've seen the incredible promise and the very real dangers. Where does that leave us? What's the final verdict on NLP? Is it this amazing breakthrough, or is it something to be wary of? Well, as you can probably guess, the truth is, it's complicated. On the one hand, NLP offers a genuinely powerful, even brilliant, set of techniques for understanding and changing how we experience the world. That's its strength. But its greatest weakness is that it's only a set of techniques. It's a toolkit, not a complete blueprint for a human being. It's designed, on purpose, to ignore the bigger picture.
And that really leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? Is the power of a technique really enough if it completely ignores the person behind the problem? NLP proved that we can change the how of our internal experience with stunning efficiency, but it really forces us to ask a tough question. What do we risk losing when we stop asking why? Thanks for digging into this with me.